As a matter of fact, they're letting treasuries expire and they're buying gold. They're like, it's a total shift. We could see that coming 10 years ago. We definitely saw it coming 5 years ago. And you start to understand why asset prices continue to inflate, but more importantly, why we as investors need to get our capital put to work.
And that's a really good point, because you need to take a look at probable outcomes. And again, this is where the patterns, the trajectory, where are we going? If we're continuing on the same trend, or is there at some point it's going to reverse? And right now we are seeing, like you said, the central banks that are amassing gold again. And it's really funny. During Pierre Poilievre's campaign, he did an interview. I don't know if you saw that interview. I actually have a clip, and I put it out because I used it in one of my presentations for investors. And I said, here you go. You don't think that the politicians don't know where to preserve wealth? He said it. And he said even things like collectibles, rare wine, whiskey collections. I tell my people, you may not be able to afford fancy watches, but you can afford a couple of blocks of silver. For that matter, if you had bought more medicines and more spices and more tea, 6 months ago, you would have saved 10%. And so a savings is a return, made 10% on your money today, but things that you use on a daily basis, right? So
100%.
Everybody can do this. Everybody can do this.
I think it's a fundamental, whether you want to call yourself a prepper and to what degree you go and prepare. So I'll give you an example right here. We live in Alberta, we live in British Columbia, but in Fraser Valley a couple of years ago, I've lost track of when it was, but I think it was 2 years ago, we had huge floods. Sumas just flooded. So the thing was a giant flood, dike breaks, water just wipes out a whole area. And it was just, oh gosh, it was heartbreaking to see the agriculture and the animals and all the things that was lost in that particular flood. Here's the point of it. For 3 or 4 days, it was shut down. Highways were shut down. I don't know if you remember that storm that happened in British Columbia, but we lost access to the ports. Highways were shut down, access to fuel. But here's the fundamental.